Hey everybody, this is D Hunter, bringing another action figure and diorama review. Today, we're going to look at the Neca, the Bride of Frankenstein, Ultimate Frankenstein's Monster with Chair. This is a Neca store exclusive, and it finally arrived today. So let's take a look at the packaging. As you can see, the monster demands a mate. Bride of Frankenstein, Ultimate Frankenstein's Monster with Chair, Universal Monsters, Frankenstein tied to the chair. Top, same kind of stuff. One side got Frank posed up, other side got him tied to the chair. At the back we have a ton of different display options, Frankenstein with the bride, etc. At the bottom there is the barcode, if that helps anybody. This is a Neca Ultimate figure. Window box packaging, you can hear the Velcro as I open it up on the inside flap. Frank and the bride, and then here he is in the package. So with no further ado, let's open him up. Alright. Now that we have this figure out of the package, here he is with all the accessories laid out. He comes with quite a bit of cool stuff. This is a deluxe figure set, and the biggest draw for the set is the stone and wood sort of chair that Frankenstein gets chained to. He also comes with 3 alternate hands, totaling 5 interchangeable hands, 3 heads, and some food pieces, bread, bowl of soup, and a cup of wine. Before I deload all that, let's talk about and check out the figure. So this is Frankenstein's monster from the Bride of Frankenstein. With how well Frankenstein did, they were hurrying to get a sequel, and it makes sense to make a bride for the monster. Now this figure set does not have the Bride of Frankenstein in it, but it does have Frankenstein's monster from this film, and he has additional accessories and some different sculpting choices. So let's take a look at him. Once again, it's a very similar, tall, sort of clunky body. The head looks quite a bit different from the first one. It looks like he's been through some stuff in the first film. I assume his clothes all sort of tattered up from the events of the end of the film. Head looks different. It looks good. Looks like it has maybe a little bit of blood. You can see the staples near the top of his head. He looks, I don't know, almost a little bit more lifeless. I guess the expression is just sort of boring on this head. Still has those bolts on his neck. It's a good looking figure, and I'm happy there are some differences from the first one. They could have just literally cranked out the first one and put him in the set, and yeah, would have got some complaints, but they could have easily done that and saved some money. Kind of has some, I don't know, I want to say stitching going across his arm there. It is single jointed elbow and single jointed knees. Big, giant, tall boots. We will check out the reuse between this one and the original. I imagine most parts are the same. And a closer look at his face and head sculpt, which looks pretty damn good. Look at the mouth and nose area. Look at the sculpt, the paint job on this thing. Did a really nice job. Sure, it looks lifeless. Ooh, a zombie looks lifeless. What a complaint. Flat top head, the stitches and staples. And then, here's the figure, broken down as far as he can go, with all of his removable parts detached. Now let's check out his accessories, and we'll save the chair for last. Let's start off with his hands. Here's a total of 5 of them, 2 left hands, and 3 right hands. Here's a look at his first pair of hands. These are some default hands. They would look good relaxed at his sides. And here's his second pair of hands. This is a pair of gripping hands with a really large grip. And he has 1 additional right hand. This one is holding a cigar. Yeah, you heard me right, a cigar. When he was staying with a hermit, he tried to teach him how to eat food and smoke cigars. He's literally holding a cigar. And if I didn't know better, I would have guessed it was a pen, but it does have the sort of burnt end on the side there. He can literally hold his hand high enough up to almost have him convincingly smoking that cigar. Interesting accessory, to say the least. Now let's look at his heads. He has 3 of them. 1 with a pretty normal blank expression, 1 with a smiling expression, and 1 kind of looks like an angry expression, but also kind of looks like he's smiling at the same time. Here he is with his first head. This one has the pretty normal blank expression. And then his second head. This one has the smiling expression. And here's his third head. I think it's supposed to be an angry head. It's kind of hard to tell if he's angry or possibly trying to smile or laugh. And then we have these pieces of food. You can always use extra food props in your action figure world. When he's staying with the hermit, I remember he handed him the bread and said, "This is bread." Frankenstein sort of picks it up. There's a bite taken out of it. Then we had this cup. He pulled it up, so this is wine. You can see some wine sort of dribbling out. Frankenstein drank it. It was all pouring down his face. And then I assume this is a bowl of soup. I don't specifically recall this from the film, but it was probably sitting on the table as well. Here's a look at Frankenstein holding the bread and the wine. So here's a look at the chair. The main part of the chair comes in two separate pieces, but there's also some chains to attach. So let's put it all together. When fully assembled, it looks like this. So we have the stone seat he sits on, wooden backdrop. It's got a chain that's going to be sort of across his chest or neck. It's got a couple chains here. They're going to connect to his arms and keep him in place. And it has a couple of chains sort of hanging off the back, which I guess attach it to something else. Here's a look at Frankenstein's monster, chained up to the chair. He looks like he doesn't understand why this is being done to him. You can take the hands off, pop the sort of chains around the wrist, put the hand back on, stick his head through here, and he fits on there pretty nicely, and it looks pretty good. Now, I got this item many years ago. This is from Z-Bop Toys, and it's specifically called Torture Chamber. But to me, it looks like a third-party version of Frankenstein's chair. We have the stone back wall, we have a stone chair with chains, and it definitely resembles Frankenstein's chair at least a little bit. Now, I put this to a lot of use in my action figure world, mostly for different torture scenarios, etc., etc. It's a cool diorama. Pretty sure it's based off Bride of Frankenstein. Now, there's no real good way to put his entire chair into this diorama, but the top part of the diorama comes up, and you can just slide it on top of the sort of chair diorama, and it looks okay. And if I put those two Mezco 112 Collective Frankenstein doorways on the sides, you almost have a full diorama going on here. Now to check out the differences, reuse, and similarities between Frankenstein's monster from Bride of Frankenstein and the original Frankenstein's monster from Frankenstein. So let's take a look. So it is definitely a new head sculpt. I would say it looks like the torso is the same, but the jacket overlay is different. It's opened up and a little bit damaged. The arm definitely is a new sculpt on the arm. You can see even the wrinkles are a little bit different. You can see the wrinkles on the shirt are exactly the same at the top. And I did peek. This guy does have a similar cut underneath the jacket. Looks like even the forearm's different. Hands even look to be a little different. I'd say the crotch and the pants and the feet are exactly the same. So it's a modified version of the original monster, but they did make some new parts, and I do appreciate that. Now that we've taken a pretty good look at both the figure and his accessories, let's check out his height. And he's a pretty tall guy, as Frankenstein's monster is pretty tall in the film. From bottom to the very top of his head, standing right at 8 inches tall, which can translate to about 20 centimeters. And for his articulation, starting with his head, of course, it can rotate side to side. He can look up about that far, down about that much. He does have articulation both at the top and the bottom of the neck. Can tilt his head from one side to the other. Shoulders on a ball joint goes out about 90 degrees. Up, down, around. He's got single jointed elbows. They go in a tiny bit more than 90 degrees with rotation. His wrist can rotate, and it is hinged as well. His torso, he's got ball joint, rotate around, forward and back. Another one is waist, rotate around, forward and back barely. Between the two, good range of motion, nothing spectacular, but you don't need a super articulated Frankenstein. He moves very slow in the film. Legs, complete with splits, ball joints. They can rotate independently of the ball. They go forward, about that far, back not much. Single jointed knee with rotation. And his ankle. Forward and back. Tilt, rock. There's no rotation here. You get that in the knee. Here's Dr. Frankenstein working on his creation. He's working on his monster until somebody knocks at the castle and he has to cover him up. Add in some more vials and lab equipment. Dr. Frankenstein is creating his monster, creating his own life form. Then we have that iconic scene with Dr. Frankenstein. He's alive! He's alive! And now we have Dr. Frankenstein interacting with his monster, curious, but understandably reluctant. And we all know how the story goes. Frankenstein sort of has a gentle heart, but a bad brain. He tries to give flour to the little girl, ends up killing her. Then, of course, the entire townspeople, they end up burning him down. They don't accept it, they do kill him. Here's Dr. Frankenstein telling his monster that he's going to make him a companion. And here he is, hard at work, creating Frankenstein's bride. And as usual, that famous scene, "It's alive! It's alive!" Then, here's the doctor explaining to the bride what she is. She just has this blank, lifeless expression. He introduces her to Frankenstein, the monster. And then, of course, we have her signature screaming scene. And of course, things go bad, and he ends up in the chair. Now let's check him out. Next to some other action figures, starting off with some other Frankenstein figures. Here's the Bride of Frankenstein, Frankenstein's monster, next to the original version from Frankenstein. And they made 4 versions of the original Frankenstein's monster: black and white, color, glow in the dark, and the Burger King homage Loot Crate exclusive. And here he is, next to the Four Horsemen Studio, figure obscura Frankenstein. This is based off Mary Shelley's novel, more so than any of the films. Then, next to McFarlane, DC Multiverse Frankenstein. This is the version from DC Comics. And now, next to Neca's Herman Munster, which was based off Frankenstein. And here, next to a couple versions of Neca's Raphael as Frankenstein's monster. This is from their Ninja Turtles Universal Monster crossover line. Then, next to a couple of Bride of Frankenstein figures, we have the color and the black and white. So in front of you is Neca's entire Bride of Frankenstein collection. And finally, next to April O'Neil as the Bride of Frankenstein. Now let's check him out with some other horror figures. Here he is with some other classic Universal Monsters figures: Wolfman, Dracula, Frankenstein's monster, the Mummy, and the creature from the Black Lagoon. And here, next to the most recent Universal Monster figure that I have, this is Ardeth Bay from the Mummy. And here he is, next to some more recent horror icons: Freddy, Jason, Michael Myers, and Leatherface. Now let's check him out next to some action figures from different various companies, so we can see how he fits in both scale and style-wise, in case we want to know which lines you can mix him with. Since he's a NECA figure, they're typically the 7-inch scale. I'm going to start off my comparisons with some of the large action figure lines that I collect, and work my smaller. But first, let's check him out with some of his NECA brothers. In front of you are 5 different action figures, all from NECA Toys, all 7-inch scale. And now, with some Jack-specific wrestling figures, and some Diamond Select toys. Here's Frankenstein's monster, next to a sleeve of saltine crackers. And here he is, with some McFarlane and DC Direct figures. Then, with both some Mattel and Jazzwares wrestling figures. And now, with some Mezco and Mattel DC figures. Next, with some Mafex and Hasbro Marvel Legends. And finally, with some SH Figure Arts and Jazzwares Fortnite figures. So overall, I would say this is an excellent Bride of Frankenstein, Frankenstein's monster figure. It's a lot of reuse from the previous Frankenstein, but some significant differences, and I appreciate that. The head sculpts look absolutely fantastic. The sculpt and paint job is on point. Accessories are great. The food items, the cigar, and of course, the big chair. The detail on the chair is fantastic. The wood mixed with the stone. The sculpt, paint job, it's all on point. His articulation is a little bit limited, but like I said before, you don't really need a super articulated Frankenstein figure. His accessories are on point, articulation is pretty much on point for what you need for this figure, and sculpt and paint job are excellent. If I were to rate this figure, I'd give him a very solid 8 out of 10. It is an excellent release, and has great accessories, and is a great deluxe figure. So this is D Hunter. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked the video, press like below. If you have anything you want to say about the video, add to the comment section. If you want to see additional action figure reviews from me, press subscribe. I do appreciate when you do that. Once again, this is D Hunter. Thank you for watching this video, and I will talk to you guys real soon.